The alarm cut through the silence like a knife. Commander Jake Morrison opened his eyes slowly, feeling the familiar ache that came with waking from cryo-sleep. His body felt heavy and cold, as if he had been sleeping for months instead of the standard 6-hour rotation. The medical bay around him hummed with quiet machinery, and the soft blue lights told him everything was normal, but something was wrong. Jake pulled himself up from the cryopod and looked at the display screen. The date made him freeze. He had been asleep for 3 weeks, not 6 hours. Someone had changed his sleep cycle without telling him. That never happened on a properly run ship. He walked to the bridge on shaking legs, his body still recovering from the extended sleep. The New Dawn was a small exploration ship, built for long journeys into unknown space. It carried 50 crew members, all but 5 sleeping in cryopods at any given time. The active crew rotated every few days to keep the ship running and watch for dangers. Captain Lisa Harper stood at the main console staring at the sensor readings. Her face was pale, and her hands moved nervously across the controls. She looked up when Jake entered the bridge. "Thank God you're awake," she said. "We have a problem." Jake moved to stand beside her. Through the main viewing screen, he could see stars scattered across the black of space. Nothing looked unusual to him. "What kind of problem?" Lisa pointed to the sensor display. 3 ships appeared on our scanners 2 hours ago. They're big, Jake. Much bigger than us. And they're moving toward us fast. Jake studied the readings. The ships were massive, each one 10 times the size of the New Dawn. Their design was unlike anything in human records. Sharp angles and strange curves that hurt to look at. Whoever built these ships had a very different idea of what a spacecraft should look like. "Have you tried to contact them?" Jake asked. "I've been sending messages for an hour. Standard greeting protocols, trade offers, even distress signals. Nothing. They just keep coming." Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. In the 300 years since humanity had gone into the Great Sleep, the galaxy had changed. New species had risen to power. Old alliances had fallen apart. The human race had pulled back to their home systems, leaving the rest of the galaxy to sort itself out while they healed from the Great Collapse. But now someone had found them. The communications panel crackled to life. A harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language Jake had never heard before. The ship's computer worked quickly to translate the words, displaying them on the screen. "Small vessel, you have entered territory claimed by the Zentari Collective. Prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in destruction." Lisa and Jake looked at each other. The Zentari Collective was not in any of their databases. These aliens had claimed space that humans had been traveling through for centuries. "Send a response," Jake said. "Tell them we're peaceful explorers. We don't want any trouble." Lisa's fingers moved across the console. She transmitted their message and waited. The response came quickly. "Your vessel and cargo now belong to the Zentari. Your crew will serve as workers. This is not a negotiation." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. He had spent his life exploring the galaxy, meeting new species and learning about different cultures. Most aliens were reasonable. They could be bargained with, reasoned with, or at least avoided. But these Zentari sounded different. They sounded like conquerors. "Wake the rest of the active crew," Jake told Lisa, "and get me a channel to Earth Command." Lisa hesitated. "Jake, we haven't contacted Earth in over 50 years. The communication delay alone will be hours, and that's if anyone is even listening." "Do it anyway, and start the emergency protocols." The emergency protocols were something every human ship carried but hoped never to use. If activated, they would send a signal to every human vessel in range, waking crews from cryosleep and alerting them to danger. It was a last resort, used only when humanity itself was threatened. The alien ships were close now. Jake could see them clearly on the screen, their dark hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. Gun ports along their sides opened like hungry mouths. These were warships built for conquest and destruction. "Incoming transmission," Lisa announced. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the lead alien ship. The creature standing in the center was tall and lean, with gray skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were black and cold, and its mouth was full of sharp teeth. This was War Chief Korthak of the Zentari Collective. "Humans," Korthak said, the word dripping with contempt. "We have heard stories of your kind, soft creatures from a weak world. You sleep while stronger species claim the galaxy." Jake stepped forward. "We're explorers, not conquerors. We have no quarrel with you." Korthak laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You have no choice in the matter. Your ship is small and weak. Your crew is asleep. You will surrender or be destroyed. And if we surrender, your ship will be added to our fleet. Your crew will work in our mines. Your technology will serve the collective. This is the way of things." Jake looked at Lisa. She was watching the sensor readings, her face grim. The alien ships had them surrounded. Their weapons were charged and ready. The New Dawn had some defensive systems, but nothing that could stand against 3 warships. But Jake had spent his life studying alien cultures. He knew that species like the Zentari respected strength above all else. They saw kindness as weakness and diplomacy as surrender. If he was going to save his crew, he needed to show them that humans were not as soft as they appeared. "I have a counteroffer," Jake said. Korthak's eyes narrowed. "You are in no position to make offers. Single combat. Your champion against mine. Winner takes all." The alien war chief studied Jake for a long moment. Among warrior species, single combat was a sacred tradition. It was a way to settle disputes without massive bloodshed, and it was binding once accepted. Your champion would face a Zentari warrior in combat to the death? That's right. And if your champion loses, your entire crew surrenders without resistance? Jake nodded, though his heart was pounding. He was gambling with the lives of 50 people. Korthak smiled, showing those sharp teeth. "And if your champion somehow wins, which is impossible, we will leave your ship alone?" "Yes." "Very well. I accept. Prepare your champion." The screen went dark. Lisa grabbed Jake's arm. "Are you insane? You just agreed to single combat with a warrior species. Who exactly is going to fight for us?" Jake was already moving toward the weapons locker. "Wake Sergeant Carl Davis. Tell him to meet me in the cargo bay." "Carl?" "Jake, he's been in cryo for 2 months. He'll barely be able to stand, let alone fight." Carl Davis was a Marine before he became an explorer. He's the toughest person on this ship. Lisa shook her head but activated the wake-up sequence for Davis's cryopod. Jake opened the weapons locker and pulled out his emergency kit. Inside was a small device he had hoped never to use, the emergency beacon. If he activated it, every human ship within 50 light-years would receive the signal. Crews would wake from cryosleep. Military vessels would power up their weapons. The long peace would be over. But first he had to see if Carl Davis could buy them time. The cargo bay doors opened with a hiss. Jake watched as a Zentari shuttle landed inside the New Dawn. The alien warriors who emerged were impressive. Each one stood 7 feet tall with gray skin stretched over powerful muscles. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never met anything stronger than themselves. Korthak stepped out last, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. "Where is your champion, human?" Carl Davis walked into the cargo bay, still shaking off the effects of cryosleep. He was a big man, even by human standards, with broad shoulders and scarred hands, but next to the Zentari warriors, he looked small and weak. Korthak laughed. "This is what you send against us, a tired old man?" Carl looked up at the alien war chief and smiled. "I'm not that old." The fight began without ceremony. The Zentari champion, a massive warrior named Vexthor, attacked with the speed and fury of a trained killer. His forearms moved in perfect coordination, striking at Carl from multiple angles. But Carl had been trained on Earth, a world with heavy gravity and dangerous predators. He had fought in wars against other humans, the most adaptable and dangerous species in the galaxy. He dodged the first attacks and studied his opponent, learning the aliens' patterns. When Vexthor overextended himself, Carl struck back. His punch connected with the alien's jaw, and Vexthor staggered. The other Zentari warriors hissed in surprise. Their champion was supposed to be invincible. The fight continued, but the outcome was no longer certain. Carl was tired from cryo-sleep, but he was also angry. These aliens had threatened his ship and his crew. They had called humans weak and soft. When Vexthor finally fell, unconscious but alive, the cargo bay was silent. Korthak stared at his defeated champion, then at Carl. Impossible. You are from a weak world. Your species sleeps while others grow. Strong. Carl wiped blood from his mouth. Maybe it's time you learned something about humans. Jake stepped forward, the emergency beacon in his hand. This is Commander Morrison of the New Dawn. We are under attack. Wake everyone. The long sleep is over. He pressed the button. Across human space, on ships drifting silent and dark, emergency systems came online. Cryopods opened with a hiss of escaping gas. Men and women who had been sleeping for decades opened their E. The emergency signal spread through human space like wildfire. On Mars, Admiral Ryan Foster felt the vibration in his bones as his cryopod opened for the first time in 40 years. The red warning lights told him everything he needed to know. Someone had activated the emergency protocols. Ryan pulled himself up slowly, his muscles aching from the long sleep. Around him, other pods were opening. Men and women in military uniforms stumbled out, reaching for weapons that had been stored for decades. They moved with the trained responses of soldiers, even though their bodies were weak from the extended hibernation. Status report, Ryan called out as he made his way to the command center. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Brooks was already at the communication station, her fingers moving across controls she had not touched in years. Emergency signal. From the New Dawn, sir. Commander Morrison reports contact with hostile aliens, the Zentari Collective. Ryan had never heard of the Zentari, but that did not surprise him. In the 300 years of human sleep, many new species had probably risen to power. The galaxy was a big place and it changed quickly. How many ships do we have operational, he asked. Checking now, sir. Nancy's voice was steady, but Ryan could see the concern in her eyes. 37 vessels in this sector. Most crews are still waking up. It will take time to get everyone ready. Time they might not have. Ryan activated the main display screen and studied the star charts. The New Dawn was 3 days away at maximum speed. If they were under attack, 3 days might be too long. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Amy Patterson woke to the sound of automated systems coming online all around her. The planet's defense networks, silent for centuries, began their startup sequences. Massive orbital platforms powered up their weapons. Ships that had drifted in space like sleeping giants started their engines. Amy had been Earth's chief scientist before the Great Sleep. She had helped design the systems that kept human civilization running, while most of the population hibernated. Now those systems were telling her that the long peace was over. She made her way to the Central Command Facility, buried deep beneath the surface of North America. The halls were filled with people stumbling around, still weak from cryo-sleep, but determined to do their jobs. Everyone knew what the emergency signal meant. Humanity was in danger. Report, Amy said as she entered the main control room. Dr. Kevin Martinez looked up from his station. The signal came from the frontier, ma'am. A single exploration ship encountered hostile forces. The captain activated full emergency protocols. Amy studied the incoming data. The New Dawn was a small ship with a tiny crew. Why would Commander Morrison risk waking all of humanity for a single encounter with aliens? The answer came when she read the full message. The aliens had demanded surrender. They had claimed human territory as their own. They had threatened to enslave the crew. That changed everything. News of the human awakening spread through the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On the homeworld of the Veltan Republic, ancient beings who remembered the last time humans were active called emergency meetings. Ambassador Hethron, whose species had lived for thousands of years, stood before the Galactic Council with fear in his eyes. You do not understand what has happened, he told the assembled representatives. The humans are not like other species. They do not follow the same rules. Lord Commander Vexthol of the Draconian Hegemony laughed. One small species awakens from hibernation, and you panic like a child. They have been asleep for centuries. Their technology is outdated, their military is weak. Their technology adapts, Hetheron replied. Their military learns. You have never faced humans in battle. I have. The other species dismissed his warnings. The Crystalline Confederacy, the Theknari Swarm, and dozens of other civilizations had grown powerful while humanity slept. They had divided up the galaxy among themselves. A few awakening humans did not frighten them. They would learn to be frightened soon enough. Captain Tony Rivers led the first response fleet toward the New Dawn's last known position. He commanded 36 ships, all that could be made ready, in time. The crews were still shaking off cryosleep, but they were angry. Someone had attacked a human vessel. Someone had threatened human lives. The journey took 2 days. When they arrived, they found the wreckage of a battle. Debris floated. In space, pieces of both human and alien ships mixed together, but the New Dawn was still intact, and it was still fighting. This is Captain Rivers to New Dawn. Report your status. Commander Morrison's voice came through the communications system, tired but determined. We're alive, Tony. Barely. The Zentari sent boarding parties. We've been fighting them off for 3 days. Tony looked at the tactical display. The New Dawn was surrounded by alien ships, but many of those ships showed damage. The small exploration vessel had somehow turned itself into a fortress. How are you still fighting? Your ship wasn't built for combat. Morrison laughed, though. It sounded more like a growl. We got creative. Mining lasers make decent weapons. Cargo containers make good shields. And it turns out our gravity generator can be turned into a very unpleasant surprise. Tony smiled. That was humanity in a nutshell. Give them a problem and they would find a way to solve it. Give them a fight and they would find a way to win. The Zentari fleet noticed the arriving human ships and moved to intercept them. War Chief Korthak's voice filled the communication channels, speaking in broken human language. More humans come, to die. We will add your ships to our collection. I don't think so, Tony replied. You made a mistake when you attacked one of our ships. You are outnumbered. We have 20 vessels, you have 30, our ships are larger. Size isn't everything. The battle began with the Zentari attacking in formation, their massive warships firing in coordinated volleys. It was an impressive display of military power. Any other species would have been overwhelmed by the sheer firepower. But humans did not fight like other species. Tony's ships scattered in all directions, using speed and maneuverability instead of raw power. They attacked from unexpected angles, coordinated without rigid formations, and adapted their tactics every few minutes. The Zentari found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of space combat. Captain Susan Wright commanded the destroyer Sharp Edge. When a Zentari cruiser tried to ram her ship, she used her engines to spin out of the way and fired at the alien vessel's weak points. The cruiser exploded, taking 2 smaller ships with it. Commander Bill Foster led a squadron of fighters that swarmed around the enemy flagship like angry insects. The Zentari tried to swat them away with point defense weapons, but the human pilots were too fast and too unpredictable. Within an hour, the Zentari fleet was in chaos. Half their ships were destroyed or damaged. The survivors were trying to retreat, but the humans pursued them relentlessly. War Chief Korthak found himself alone on his damaged flagship, facing Tony Rivers' ship directly. The human captain opened a communication channel. You wanted to see what happens when you attack humans, Tony said. Are you satisfied? Korthak's pride was wounded, but he was not stupid. His fleet was destroyed. His warriors were dead or fleeing. The humans had proven themselves in battle. We demand satisfaction, he said. Single combat. Your champion against mine. Tony smiled. We already had single combat. Your champion lost. But if you want another chance, I'll accommodate you. The cargo bay of Tony's ship opened and a small shuttle flew out. Inside was Marine Sergeant Carl Davis, the same man who had defeated the Zentari champion on the New Dawn. But now he was rested, armed, and very angry about having his sleep interrupted. Fire. Second fight lasted even less time than the first. Carl had learned the Zentari fighting style during his previous encounter. When their new champion attacked, Carl was ready. He used the alien's size and strength against him, turning the creature's momentum into a weapon. When it was over, Korthak stared at his unconscious warrior and then at the human who had defeated him so easily. "How?" he asked. Carl looked up at the alien war chief. "We learn fast, and we don't like bullies." Word of the battle spread quickly through alien communication networks. The humans had not just survived an attack by a superior force. They had won decisively. A single exploration ship had held off an entire fleet. A small battle group had destroyed 20 warships without losing a single vessel. More importantly, the humans had shown something that worried every alien species in the galaxy. They had shown that they could adapt. They could take any situation, no matter how hopeless, and find a way to turn it to their advantage. On the homeworld of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were called. Species that had never heard of humanity suddenly found themselves studying human history and capabilities. What they learned did not comfort them. Humans were the only species that had evolved on a death world. Their planet was covered with dangerous predators, extreme weather, and natural disasters. Instead of making them weak, this had made them incredibly adaptable. They could survive in environments that would kill other species. They could learn to use any technology. They could turn any situation into an advantage. Ambassador Hethron addressed the council again, but this time, they listened. "The humans are awake," he said. "They know we exist. They know we claimed their territory while they slept. And now they are angry." The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive chamber, all talking at once. Fear hung in the air like smoke. The humans were awake, and no one knew what that meant for the galaxy. General Katie Walsh walked into the chamber with confident steps. Behind her came diplomat Sam Mitchell, carrying a briefcase full of documents that would change everything. The alien representatives fell silent as the two humans took their seats at the center of the room. Katie had been a military commander before the Great Sleep. She understood war and peace, strength and diplomacy. Sam had been Earth's chief negotiator, skilled at finding solutions that everyone could accept. Together, they represented humanity's first contact with galactic civilization in 3 centuries. The council speaker, a tall being with blue skin and 4 eyes, stood at the podium. "The Galactic Council recognizes the delegation from Earth. You may present your statement." Katie rose to her feet. Around her, hundreds of alien eyes watched her every move. Some showed curiosity, others showed fear. A few showed barely hidden hostility. "My name is General Katie Walsh. I speak for all of humanity. 3 days ago, one of our exploration ships was attacked without provocation. The attackers demanded surrender and threatened to enslave our crew. This was an act of war against the human species." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The representative from the Zentari Collective, a warrior named Texkar who had replaced the disgraced Korthak, stood up angrily. "The vessel entered our territory illegally. We acted within our rights under galactic law." Katie smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "What galactic law? We were never consulted about these laws. We never agreed to recognize your territorial claims. When humanity went into hibernation, this space belonged to no one. You abandoned it," Texkar snarled. "You slept while stronger species claimed what you left behind." "We didn't abandon anything. We were healing from a great war. Now we're awake, and we want our territory back." The chamber exploded into arguments. Dozens of species began shouting at once, each claiming rights to various star systems. The council speaker struggled to restore order. Sam Mitchell stood up slowly. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried clearly through the noise. "Perhaps we should discuss this reasonably. Humanity has specific demands." "Demands?" The representative from the Draconian hegemony, Lord Commander Vexthul, laughed loudly. "You are one species among hundreds. You have no right to make demands." Sam opened his briefcase and pulled out a datapad. "Let me read our terms. First, complete reparations for the unprovoked attack on the New Dawn. Second, guaranteed safe passage for all human vessels through any space we previously controlled. Third, formal recognition of humanity's territorial claims based on our historical Presence. The alien representative stared at him in disbelief. These demands would give humanity control over dozens of star systems, some of which had been claimed by other species for centuries. This is madness, Vexthol said. You cannot simply wake up after 300 years and expect the galaxy to bow to your wishes. We're not asking you to bow, Katie replied. We're telling you how things are going to be. And if we refuse? Katie's smile grew wider. Then we'll take what we want by force. The chamber fell silent. Even the most warlike species were shocked by the humans' blunt statement. Diplomacy was supposed to involve compromise and negotiation. The humans were offering neither. Dr. Helen Brooks, humanity's chief xenobiologist, entered the chamber carrying a large display screen. She had been studying alien biology for months, preparing for this moment. Before you make any decisions, Helen said, I think you should understand what you're dealing with. She activated the display screen. Detailed biological scans of every species in the chamber appeared on the screen. Height, weight, muscle density, bone strength, reaction time, and dozens of other measurements filled the display. These are your biological capabilities, Helen explained. Now let me show you ours. The screen changed to show human biological data. The aliens stared in growing horror as they realized what they were seeing. Humans were not the strongest species or the fastest or the smartest, but they were something else entirely. You evolved on safe worlds, Helen continued. Stable climates, predictable seasons, few natural predators. You specialized for your specific environments. We evolved on Earth. She pressed a button and images of Earth appeared on the screen. Hurricanes that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that blocked out the sun, predators with claws and teeth designed for killing. Our world tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We survived by becoming the most adaptable species in the galaxy. We can live in temperatures that would freeze your blood or boil your flesh. We can breathe atmospheres that would poison you. We can fight in gravity that would crush your bones. The Crystalline Confederacy's representative, a being made of living crystal, stood up. Enough of this posturing. We have psychic abilities that can control your primitive minds. Helen smiled. Would you like to test that theory? Lieutenant. Colonel Pete Anderson stepped forward from where he had been standing guard. He was a big man with scars on his hands and a calm expression that never changed, even when facing danger. The crystalline being focused its mental powers on Pete, trying to force thoughts of fear and submission into his mind. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Pete tilted his head slightly as if listening to something far away. Interesting, he said. You're trying to make me afraid, but I've been afraid before. I've been afraid of bullets and bombs and enemies who wanted to kill me. Your little mind trick doesn't compare. The crystalline being pushed harder, pouring more psychic energy into the attack. Pete stood perfectly still, his expression unchanged. Then he smiled. My turn, he said. Pete had been trained in military psychic defense techniques. Instead of just resisting the alien's mental attack, he traced it back to its source. The crystalline being suddenly screamed and fell to the floor, its crystal body flickering with unstable energy. Two other crystalline representatives tried to help their colleague, but they too collapsed as Pete's mental counterattack overwhelmed their defenses. Within seconds, 3 of the galaxy's most powerful psychic beings were unconscious on the floor. Anyone else want to test human capabilities? Katie asked. The chamber was silent except for the sound of the fallen crystalline beings being carried away by medical staff. Every alien representative was now looking at the humans with a mixture of fear and respect. The council speaker tried to regain control of the situation. Perhaps we should discuss these demands more carefully. Some compromise might be possible. No compromise, Sam said firmly. These are our terms. Accept them or face the consequences. You're only 2 people, Vexthol said, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. How can you threaten an entire galaxy? Katie activated her communication device. Admiral Foster, please give our friends here a demonstration. High above the council world, 50 human warships dropped out of hyperspace. They had been waiting just outside the system, hidden and ready. The ships took positions around the planet, their weapons powered, but not yet aimed at any targets. "We have 1,000 more ships awakening every week," Katie said. "In a month we'll have 10,000. In a year we'll have enough firepower to sterilize any world that opposes us." "You're threatening genocide," the representative from the Peaceful Commerce Union said in horror. "We're promising self-defense," Sam replied. "Attack us, and we'll defend ourselves. Leave us alone and we'll leave you alone. It's very simple." Admiral Ryan Foster's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. "Council representatives, this is Admiral Foster of the Human Fleet. We're here to demonstrate our peaceful intentions. However, if any hostile action is taken against our delegation, we will respond appropriately." The message was clear. The humans had not come to negotiate as equals. They had come to dictate terms from a position of overwhelming strength. Dr. Helen Brooks activated her display again. "Let me show you something else. This is what happens when humans are threatened." Didimo. Screen showed footage from the battle with the Zentari fleet. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as human ships tore apart a superior force, using tactics they had never seen before. "We don't fight like you do," Helen explained. "You follow rules. You use traditional formations and predictable strategies. We adapt, we improvise, we turn everything into a weapon." The footage showed the New Dawn using its mining equipment as artillery, human fighters swarming around alien cruisers like insects, cargo containers turned into guided missiles. "You want to know what makes humans dangerous?" Katie asked. "It's not our strength or our speed or our intelligence. It's that we never give up. You can defeat our ships, kill our soldiers, destroy our worlds, and we'll keep fighting. We'll learn from our mistakes and come back stronger." The council speaker looked around the chamber at the frightened faces of the alien representatives. "What guarantee do we have that humanity will honor these agreements?" "The same guarantee you have with any other species," Sam replied. "Mutual benefit. We're not asking for tribute or slaves." The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had taken their place at the Galactic Council through force and intimidation. Some species accepted this new reality. Others plotted in secret. A few decided to test whether the humans were really as dangerous as they claimed. Engineer Roy Campbell worked 18 hours a day in the research facilities of Europa Station. Around him, teams of scientists and technicians examined captured alien technology with the focused intensity that only humans possessed. Where other species took years to understand foreign technology, humans did it in days. "Look at this," Roy said to his assistant, Dr. Maria Santos. He held up a piece of Zentari armor that had been damaged in the recent battle. "Their metal is stronger than ours, but it's brittle. One good hit in the right place, and the whole thing shatters." Maria studied the fractured armor through a microscope. The molecular structure is completely different from human alloys. They probably never had to deal with repeated impacts. Their world must have been very peaceful. Roy smiled grimly. "Not like Earth. We learned to make things that could survive hurricanes, earthquakes, and wars. Everything we build has to be tough." Across the station, other teams were working on captured alien weapons, computers, and ship components. Within a week, human engineers had figured out how to build better versions of everything they found. The aliens had spent centuries perfecting their technology. Humans improved it in days. Meanwhile, biologist Linda Hayes worked in the medical section, developing countermeasures for alien biological weapons. The Crystalline Confederacy had threatened to use psychic attacks against human colonies. Several insect-like species had mentioned poison gases that could kill any carbon-based life form. "Every species has weaknesses," Linda explained to her research team. "The crystallines need specific mineral nutrients that we can disrupt. The insect species can't survive in low-oxygen environments. Even the most dangerous alien weapons can be countered if you understand the biology behind them." She activated a display screen showing the results of her latest experiments. "We've developed immunity boosters for 12 different alien toxins, psychic dampening fields that can protect entire cities, and medical treatments that can heal damage from energy weapons that other species consider fatal." The galaxy was learning that humans did not just fight wars. They solved problems. Every challenge was met with innovation. Every threat was answered with adaptation. But some species refused to learn. The Theknari swarm had conquered 17 worlds through sheer numbers. Their strategy was simple and effective: send millions of drone soldiers to overwhelm any defense. No species had ever successfully resisted a full swarm assault. Queen Vashati, the leader of the swarm, looked at reports about human military capabilities with contempt. They defeated one small fleet through trickery. They intimidated the council through threats. But they have never faced the swarm. Her military advisors, insect-like creatures with compound eyes and chitinous armor, clicked their agreement. The humans claim to be adaptable, my queen, but adaptation takes time. We can overrun their positions before they have a chance to adjust their tactics. Choose a target, Vashati commanded. Something soft. A farming colony with minimal defenses. Show the galaxy that human arrogance has limits. The target they chose was New Eden, a human agricultural world on the edge of explored space. The planet had been settled for only 50 years before the Great Sleep began. When humanity woke up, they found a thriving farming community of 10,000 people growing food for the expanding human population. Colonel Steve Parker commanded the Planetary Defense Force. He had 12 soldiers, 6 outdated fighters, and a population of farmers who had never seen real combat. When the swarm fleet appeared in the sky, it looked like the end of the world. "Sir," reported Sergeant Dana Wilson from the communications station. "We're reading over 300 ships, estimated troop strength of 2 million combat drones." Steve looked out the window at the peaceful farming valleys below. Men and women were working in the fields, tending crops that fed human colonies across 3 star systems. They were not soldiers, but they were humans. That might be enough. "Send a message to Earth Command," he ordered. "Tell them New Eden is under attack, then get me Mayor Ellen Davis on the communication system." Ellen Davis had been mayor of New Eden for 15 years. She was a farmer's daughter who had never left her home planet, but she understood her people. When Steve explained the situation, her response was immediate. "What do you need?" "I need every piece of farming equipment that can be turned into a weapon. I need every building that can be turned into a fortress. And I need every person who's willing to fight for their home." Ellen smiled. "Colonel, you just described every human on this planet." The transformation of New Eden began immediately. Farming tractors were fitted with armor plating and weapon mounts. Irrigation systems became networks of defensive trenches. Grain silos were turned into observation posts and ammunition storage. Dr. Patricia Green, the colony's chief scientist, worked with the engineering teams to adapt civilian technology for military use. The fertilizer plants can produce explosives. The crop dusters can spray chemical weapons. Even the greenhouse climate controls can be used to create poison gas. When the first wave of swarm drones landed, they found a world that looked nothing like the peaceful farming colony their intelligence had described. Every field was a killing ground. Every building was a fortress. Every human was a soldier defending their home. The drones were designed for overwhelming weak defenses through superior numbers. They were not prepared for humans who turned everything into a weapon. Farming equipment that should have been harmless became deadly. Agricultural chemicals that should have helped crops grow became instruments of war. Mayor Ellen Davis stood in the town hall that had been converted into a command center, coordinating the defense of her world. Sector 7 reports drone breakthrough. Send the heavy farming equipment to reinforce them. Colonel Steve Parker watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. They're learning that attacking a human colony is like attacking a hornet's nest. You might kill some hornets, but the rest will make you regret it. The battle continued for weeks. The swarm sent wave after wave of drones, but the humans adapted faster than their enemies could adjust. When the drones learned to avoid the farming equipment, the humans used mining explosives. When the drones adapted to the explosives, the humans used biological weapons made from agricultural chemicals. Captain Jennifer Price led a squadron of crop-dusting aircraft that had been converted into fighters. Her pilots were farmers who knew every hill and valley on their world. They used this knowledge to set traps that professional military pilots would never have thought of. Incoming drone formation at grid reference 77, she reported, leading them through Devil's Canyon now. Devil's Canyon was a narrow valley between two hills. The sides were steep and covered with crops that looked harmless from the air. But the humans had planted those crops carefully. When the drones flew through the canyon, hidden explosives turned the entire valley into a death trap. Dr. Frank Morris, the colony's veterinarian, found himself treating human wounded and dissecting captured alien drones with equal skill. Their biology is fascinating, he told Colonel Parker. They're individually weak, but they coordinate through chemical signals, disrupt the signals, and they become confused and helpless. Working with Dr. Green, Frank developed a chemical spray that interfered with the drone's communication systems. Suddenly, the perfectly coordinated swarm attacks became chaotic mob charges that the human defenders could easily defeat. After 6 months of continuous fighting, the swarm fleet in orbit was down to half strength. The ground forces had lost over 1 million drones to a human population that numbered only 10,000. Queen Vashti herself arrived on the planet to understand how this was possible. She met with Colonel Parker under a flag of truce, her insect eyes studying the human commander with confusion and growing respect. "How?" she asked. "You were outnumbered 200 to 1. Your technology was inferior. Your world had no military defenses." Steve looked out over the fields where his people continued to work, even though alien ships filled the sky above them. "You're right about the numbers and the technology, but you made one mistake." "What mistake?" "You thought farmers would be easy to defeat. But farmers are survivors. They fight droughts, floods, diseases, and pests every day. They know how to adapt. They know how to endure. And when someone threatens their home, they know how to fight." Queen Vashti studied the human colony from her command ship. The buildings were damaged but still standing. The fields were scarred with battle craters but still producing food. The humans continued their daily work as if the most powerful military force in the galaxy was not hovering overhead. "We could glass the planet from orbit," she said to her advisors. "Yes, my queen, but the humans have already sent word to their fleets. Admiral Foster is 3 days away with 50 warships. If we destroy this world, they will hunt us across the galaxy." Vashti made a decision that would reshape swarm strategy for generations. Signal retreat. This world is not worth the cost. 6 months had passed since Commander Morrison sent his desperate message across human space. The galaxy was a different place now. Trade routes that had remained unchanged for centuries were being redrawn. Species that had ruled entire sectors now asked permission before claiming new territory. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. Ambassador Julie Thompson stood in the rebuilt chambers of the Galactic Council. The room looked the same as before, but everything had changed. Where once hundreds of species had gathered as equals, now there was a clear hierarchy. Humanity sat at the center, not because they had conquered anyone, but because everyone else was afraid to oppose them. Julie had been Earth's trade negotiator before the Great Sleep. She understood economics and politics better than most humans understood war. Her job was to turn military victory into lasting peace, and she was very good at her job. "The Aquatic Alliance has requested exclusive trading rights to the Kepler system," she announced to the assembled representatives. "In exchange, they offer their advanced water purification technology and access to their deep-sea mining operations." The representative from the Alliance, a fish-like being named Consul, Depthsinger, bowed respectfully. "We believe this arrangement will benefit both our species, Ambassador Thompson." Julie smiled warmly. "I think we can work something out, but we'll need guarantees that human ships will have safe passage through Alliance space. Of course, any vessel flying human flags will be given full escort and protection." This was how diplomacy worked now. Other species offered their best technology, their most valuable resources, and their complete cooperation. In return, humanity offered protection and trade agreements. It was not conquest in the traditional sense, but the result was the same. Human interests came first. War Chief Korthak of the Zentari Collective waited his turn to speak. The proud warrior who had once demanded human surrender now served as humanity's most vocal supporter among the military species. The Zentari pledge our continued alliance with humanity, he declared. Any species that threatens human interests will face the combined might of the collective and the human fleet. Julie nodded approvingly. Your loyalty is appreciated, War Chief. The mining rights to the asteroid belt in your home system are confirmed for another 10 years. Other alien representatives watched this exchange with careful attention. The Zentari had been one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces. Now they served as humanity's enforcers, protecting human interests in exchange for economic benefits. The message was clear. Cooperation with humanity brought rewards, while opposition brought consequences. Captain Morrison sat in the observation gallery, watching the diplomatic proceedings with amazement. His desperate fight to save 50 crew members had somehow changed the fate of the entire galaxy. The small exploration ship New Dawn had become a symbol of human determination, and Morrison himself was now considered a hero throughout human space. Dr. Alex Turner, humanity's new director of galactic affairs, approached the podium to address the council. Alex had been chosen for his ability to see the big picture, to understand how individual decisions affected the entire galaxy. Today we established the Galactic Protection Protocols, Alex announced. These protocols will ensure peace and stability throughout known space. He activated a holographic display showing the galaxy divided into zones of influence. Human space was marked in blue, but there were also green zones for allied species, yellow zones for neutral territories, and red zones for areas requiring special attention. Any act of aggression within the green zones will be considered an attack on humanity itself, Alex continued. Any attempt to destabilize neutral territories will result in immediate intervention, and any species engaging in slavery, genocide, or other crimes against sentient beings will face the full force of human justice. The alien representatives studied the map with growing understanding. Humanity was not just claiming territory for themselves. They were imposing their moral standards on the entire galaxy. Species that had practiced slavery for thousands of years would have to change their ways or face human retaliation. The representative from the cruel empire, a species that had built their civilization on enslaved labor, stood up angrily. You cannot dictate morality to the entire galaxy. Each species has the right to govern itself according to its own traditions. Julie's expression hardened. Some traditions need to end. Slavery is one of them. And if we refuse to comply with your demands, Admiral Ryan Foster's voice came through the communication system from his flagship in orbit. Then you'll discover why we call ourselves humanity and not cruelty. The threat was clear. The cruel empire could abandon slavery or face military action. They had seen what happened to species that challenged human power. The choice was easy to make. Dr. Helen Brooks entered the chamber carrying the latest reports from human research stations. The galaxy's leading xenobiologist had become something like a prophet of human superiority, able to predict how any species would react to human contact. We have completed our analysis of galactic biodiversity, she announced. Out of 437 known sentient species, only 12 evolved on worlds that could be classified as challenging environments. The rest developed on what humans would consider paradise worlds. She activated her display screen, showing images of alien homeworlds, beautiful planets with stable climates, abundant resources, and few natural dangers. These species never had to adapt to survive. They specialized for their specific environments and never developed beyond that specialization. Then the screen changed to show Earth. Hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, ice ages, and predators filled the display. Humans evolved to survive anything. Where other species see an impossible challenge, we see a problem to be solved. Lieutenant Colonel Pete Anderson, now serving as head of human security for the Council, stood near the entrance with his usual calm expression. His demonstration of mental resistance against the Crystalline Confederacy had become legendary. Alien species that had relied on psychic powers for thousands of years now knew that such abilities were useless against properly trained humans. The Crystalline representative, still weak from Pete's counterattack months earlier, spoke carefully. The Confederacy wishes to propose a research exchange program. Our psychic techniques in return for human mental defense training. Pete smiled slightly. We're always interested in learning new things. But the training program will be voluntary. For humans and mandatory for any crystalline who wants to visit human space. The negotiations continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. Every species wanted something from humanity: protection, technology, trade agreements, or simply the assurance that they would not be classified as enemies. Humanity was generous with their offers, but the price was always the same: complete acceptance of human authority. Fleet Admiral Chris Murphy monitored the proceedings from his command ship. The hero of the Thekanari campaign now commanded a fleet of over 2,000 vessels, more military power than any single species had ever possessed. But the fleet's strength was not just in numbers. Human ships were crewed by people who had learned to adapt to any situation, to turn any challenge into an advantage. "Sir," reported Captain Susan Wright from the destroyer Sharp Edge, "we're receiving surrender requests from the Bandit Coalition. They want to negotiate terms for joining the protection protocols." Murphy smiled. The Bandit Coalition had been raiding peaceful shipping for centuries. Now they wanted protection from other raiders. "Tell them we'll consider their application, but first they need to return everything they've stolen and compensate their victims. And if they refuse, then we'll show them the difference between bandits and soldiers." As the council session concluded, Julie Thompson stood to make the final announcement. The Galactic Protection Protocols are now in effect. Any species that accepts these protocols will receive the full protection and support of humanity and our allies. Any species that rejects them will be considered hostile and treated accordingly. The vote was unanimous. Even species that had initially opposed human expansion now recognized the reality of their situation. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, not through conquest but through demonstrated superiority in every area that mattered. Captain Morrison walked through the corridors of the council station, thinking about how much had changed. 6 months ago he had been a simple explorer trying to save his crew. Now he was part of a species that ruled the galaxy through sheer competence and determination. Dr. Amy Patterson, who had overseen Earth's awakening, joined him at an observation window looking out at the stars. "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing?" Morrison considered the question carefully. "The aliens attacked our ship without provocation. They claimed our territory while we slept. They threatened to enslave our people. We defended ourselves and showed them that humanity cannot be bullied. And now they know that the universe operates according to human rules. We protect the innocent, punish the guilty, and make sure everyone has a chance to live in peace." "That doesn't sound wrong to me." Amy nodded. "The galaxy is safer now than it has been in centuries. No more slave raids, no more genocidal wars, no more species preying on the weak.